What gives you the right to kill here? Evelyn screamed, her voice slicing through the cold air like a blade. I still had my hands on the deer when she stormed into the clearing, phone already recording, her entourage fanned out behind her like backup dancers for a bad decision. Put that rifle down right now. This is protected HOA property, she barked. If you're watching this, drop your city in the comments. Would your HOA try this stunt? I didn't move to Green Valley Estates to collect enemies. After 8 years in the military and 5 in cramped tech offices, I came for space and quiet Zoom calls at a desk that faces trees, a grill that gets more use than my calendar, a dog that thinks every sunrise is a miracle. The fees were steep, sure, but the lawns looked like golf fairways and the brochure promised nature at your back door. No one mentioned the part where nature was an 80-acre forest the HOA neither owned nor managed. The welcome basket Evelyn brought in week 2 had more bylaws than brownies. We're delighted you're here, she said, smile tight as a lid. My neighbor Sarah later translated, Evelyn's HOA isn't a service, it's a stage, and she plays judge, jury, and marketing department. I plan to keep my head down, pay on time, and avoid the show. Then, hunting season arrived. I was raised to hunt the way some are raised, to fish or farm, clean, ethical, leave no mess, respect the land. A county record search told me the woods behind us belonged to Frank Williams, 83, now in Florida. I sent a respectful email. He replied the next day. Son, you treat that land better than I can now. Send a picture if you tag a buck. Simple, legal, done. What I didn't know, for years, Evelyn and her wellness walk entourage had installed benches and bird feeders on Frank's property, carving trails like they were carving cake. She'd even bragged to new buyers about our private paths. Translation: she built social credit on land she never asked to use. If that rubs you wrong, type boundaries, so the algorithm knows folks still care about lines on a map. The morning it blew up, I took a clean shot at a heavy 8-point just after 9. As I knelt to dress the deer, here came Evelyn and 5 women in matching athleisure, mid-gossip about a porch light violation. She froze, then performed for her audience. Barbaric, this is a protected area. I held up Frank's email. Owner's permission. She waved it off. We manage these trails. Hunting prohibited. I'd have laughed if the camera flashes hadn't started. 3 days later, the violation letter hit. Cruel hunting activities causing community disturbance. $5,000 due in 30 days. That's when disbelief morphed into focus. HOA rules don't reach past HOA dirt. I called Sarah. She's telling parents at school you're dangerous, she warned. And, Mason, she's been selling the private trails idea for years. My reply was quiet. Then we need sunlight. I built a folder like I was prepping an audit. Frank's ownership chain, parcel maps with GPS pins, screenshots of Evelyn's exclusive trail posts in realtor groups, photos of feeders and benches installed on Frank's land. I drafted a crisp letter. Cease representing, altering, or occupying parcel #8 to 042 private property. Remove fixtures in 10 days. I sent copies to the HOA inbox, the management company, and certified mail to the board. Then I called Frank. He laughed, then got serious. Never gave them permission. Send me your packet. I'll sign whatever you need. He executed a limited license to me for hunting, trail maintenance, and enforcement against trespass. He also wrote a short note to the HOA. Get off my land. If you've ever had to teach adults what no trespassing means, you know the mix of comedy and rage. Evelyn countered with theater. Emergency board meeting tonight. Community safety concerns. I sat in the second row with a binder and a body cam. She opened with fear. Gunfire near homes. Sanctuary under threat. Our trails. When she tried to slide a map with a fantasy boundary, I stood and placed the county plat next to it. This is the law. This is your imagination. Murmurs. A homeowner with a contractor's license asked the question that landed. Do we actually own any of it? Silence. I read Frank's letter into the mic. A dad in a ball cap said what everyone was thinking. So you've been walking on a stranger's land for Instagram? The board table looked suddenly smaller. Evelyn moved to vote on a ban anyway. I reminded the room bans don't apply off HOA property. The manager cleared his throat. He's technically correct. The next morning, two things happened. One, a certified envelope arrived demanding my immediate cessation of hostile acts and reasserting a $5,000 fine. Two, my video of the porch confrontation hit 100K views in 12 hours. Neighbors started DMing receipts, emails where Evelyn pitched our preserve, photos of board members installing signage on Frank's trees. Paula, the teacher from down the street, texted, "She's been doing this for years." People were too tired to fight. I filed a formal complaint with the county about unpermitted structures on private land and forwarded the package to the sheriff with a simple note. Property owner requests assistance removing unauthorized fixtures, license attached. I invited Evelyn to a moderated mediation with Sarah present. She declined. So, I scheduled removal day and invited the deputies. When the cruisers rolled up, Evelyn arrived with a clipboard army. "Those benches are community assets," she argued. The deputy held Frank's license. "They're on Frank's land. He can consent to removal." I carried each feeder and bench to a flatbed, photographed the GPS, labeled every piece, and stacked them neatly at the HOA clubhouse with a receipt. Recovered items from parcel #08 to 042. Claim within 30 days. No drama, just process. The same afternoon, I posted a calm explainer. County lines, owner's letter, why ethical hunting and property rights can coexist with real safety. If you think rules matter more when you like the violator, hit share, I said. The comments turned. People who'd been silent started asking better questions. Order without consent is decoration. Consent without law is chaos. Communities need both. And honesty. Evelyn tried a different angle. Proposed amendment HOA authority over adjacent green spaces. Translation, grab power where none exists. She framed it as security, consistency, protecting home values. I posted the plain English version. This lets 5 volunteers police land you don't own. At the vote night, I brought copies of the county parcel map for every chair and a 1-page explainer, what an HOA can and cannot do. Homeowners lined up to speak Paula about her forced tree removal, a nurse about a letter for a too bright porch light, a retiree about a shed color. People were done borrowing fear. The amendment failed by a wide margin. Evelyn's smile didn't crack. The room's spell did. If you've ever watched a bully lose the room, you know the air gets lighter. Then came the lawsuit threat. A lawyerly letter claimed nuisance, brand damage, and reckless endangerment. Tom, my attorney, skimmed and shrugged. Bluff, but we'll answer. We countered with a demand to cease false statements and a public correction about ownership. Frank, legend that he is, mailed the board a trespass notice and offered to lease the land long-term to a conservation trust with one condition: the HOA stays out. He called me chuckling. "Let's turn this into a teaching moment, kid." We met a local land conservancy. They loved the idea. Hiking allowed by permit, no HOA branding, hunting by owner authorization only, habitat restoration funded by donations. A path that respects law and lets people touch trees? Wild concept. I know. Evelyn made one last push, a safety walk, with a print reporter in tow. She tried to sell the narrative, reckless gunman, scared families, HOA as guardian. The reporter asked me for comment at the gate. I didn't swing. I stuck to facts. I hunt ethically on private land with the owner's written consent. The HOA represented that land as theirs without permission. We returned fixtures, documented everything, and proposed a legal solution, a conservancy lease. This isn't city versus country, it's consent versus control. The article landed balanced, but the photo told the story. A locked HOA sign being carried off a tree it never belonged on. The next week, the board email apologized for any misunderstanding about trail ownership and withdrew the fine as a gesture of goodwill. I framed that line like a deer tag. Here's the part you came for the flip. We signed a memorandum of understanding with the Conservancy, permit-only hikes, no dogs during nesting season, no feeding wildlife, trail hours posted, parking off neighborhood streets. Frank got a small annual stipend. Volunteers got real training. Neighbors got legal access. The HOA got out of a business it never owned. At the next meeting, I took 2 minutes at the mic. Homeowners, you shouldn't need a camera to be heard. Ask for proof, not posture. Read your covenants. Respect property lines. And when someone waves a rule book, ask who wrote it and where the fence really is. If this helped you, type "Maps matter" so other folks find it when they need to push back without burning bridges. If you're still watching, here's your checklist to protect your sanity and your land. Pull county parcel maps know the line better than anyone. Get owner permission in writing, emails count, licenses help. Document everything: photos, timestamps, certified mail. Explain in public like you're talking to a smart friend. No jargon, no insults. Offer a solution that works without you: Conservancy, easement, shared schedule. When they bluff, breathe. When they bully, record. When they stall, escalate. On paper, not with volume. And when you finally turn the key in the lock they tried to claim, don't gloat. Build something better in the space you just reclaimed. Because the real win isn't the fine they withdrew, it's the fear your neighbor stopped paying on time. Pay the fine or we lien your house, Evelyn snapped, jabbing the paper at me. You hunted in our preserve. Period. I held up Frank's signed email and my license. Your preserve is an old man's deeded timber, and he gave me written permission. Jessica Parker shot to her feet. My kids heard gunshots. I pointed to the parcel map on my phone. Outside HOA lines, legal season, safe backstops. Officer Davis? He stepped forward, uniform crisp. He's compliant. Private land, owner consent. Marcus leaned in, voice booming. Community standards outrank technicalities. I laughed once. Community standards don't beat property law. The room buzzed. Evelyn slid a glossy brochure across the table. Green Valley Trails. Frank's land colored like it was theirs. 30 days, she hissed. Orlean. I stared right back. Try it, and while you do, tell the room why your nature trails sit on land you never owned. If you're watching, sound off, law, or vibes. Comment, law, if you're with me. I left the meeting with something better than applause. Paperwork. The brochure mapped Frank's entire 80 acres under a big green lie. At home, I called Frank, put the speaker by my laptop, and walked him through the mess. They printed my creek on a pamphlet, he groaned. Never gave a soul permission. He hesitated, breath thin. Taxes keep rising. I'm in Florida. Joints are failing. Been thinking of selling. A door opened in my head. If you're serious, I'm a serious buyer. We talked numbers. I promised respect. Then I went digging. County portal, permit queue, grant archives, bingo. The HOA had filed preliminary park development on his parcel. Trail diagrams, bird-blind renders, a stone arch reading Evely E. Wynn Richardson Nature Park. No deed, no license, just audacity and a logo. I took screenshots, stamped times, saved copies, and felt something steady click into place. We weren't in a spat. We were in a heist movie with paperwork for lockpicks. I needed a pro with sharp elbows and clean ethics. Enter Amanda Lewis, real estate attorney, 40, surgical mind. She spread my printouts across her conference table and tapped state code with a pen. Adverse possession requires open and notorious use for the statutory period, without permission, plus taxes paid. Your owners paid every bill. She slid the brochure aside. These plans aren't casual use. They're development on land they don't control. When I floated buying the parcel, she smiled. Best solution wins twice. Title and leverage. We'll structure it through an LLC to avoid a circus. Outside her glass wall, my phone vibrated with HOA noise. Anonymous notes. Animal killers aren't welcome. Garbage can nicks. A truck parked 24 plus hours ticket. All noise. I logged every letter, every timestamp, every petty move into a neat folder labeled Exhibit A, Campaign of Harassment. Pro tip for viewers: receipts beat rumors. Every single time. While Amanda drafted a purchase agreement, the HOA ran a whisper war. Sarah texted from school pickup, Evelyn telling parents, "You're dangerous." The same day, Trevor, her architect husband, showed up at the timberline with a tripod and survey stick, saw me watching, and packed up fast. His firm, Green Vision Consulting, sat on the park applications as designer of record. Conflict of interest much? I photographed plates, logged dates, and moved quietly. Frank opened at $800K. Amanda compsed it, pushed back gently, landed at $750K with a 30-day close. Heavy, but my savings and a grandparent's inheritance could cover it. It's land and peace, I told myself, signing the earnest money wire. If you've ever put real money behind your boundaries, drop skin in the chat. It hurts, and that's what makes it real. Evelyn escalated with a final notice, $5,700 with late fees, and a smile that read like a dare. Marcus posed behind her, arms crossed, trying to look like law. Unanimous board approval to pursue legal remedies, he said. I kept my voice calm. You'll have my response in 48 hours. What I didn't add? In 48 hours, our escrow opened. Amanda filed the LLC. Brett, yes, that Brett, managed the blind side. Title pulled clean. While signatures traveled, I filed 3 surgical strikes. A certified cease and desist to the HOA and management company for false claims over parcel, a county code complaint for unpermitted structures on private land benches, feeders, signage, an email to the police liaison attaching Frank's letter authorizing me to remove fixtures and post no trespassing notices. I wasn't screaming online, I was laying railroad. They tried a safety scare. Evelyn blasted an emergency meeting protect our family's email and stacked the room with her hits. She pitched an amendment granting HOA authority over adjacent green spaces that affect community welfare. Translation: jurisdiction over things they don't own. I stood, held up the county map, and handed copies down every row. This is what exists. That is what she wants. A contractor, Dad asked, "Do we own any of it?" The manager cleared his throat. No. Paula, brave as ever, rose. So for years we've been fundraising for trails on someone else's property? Murmurs turned into questions. I offered a 60-second explainer on liability. If you control land you don't own, you inherit risk you can't insure. The amendment fail wasn't loud, it was clean. Hands stayed down because the room finally saw the line. Closing day arrived under a sky the color of wet steel. We signed behind frosted glass. My name stayed off record behind the LLC per Amanda's structure. Funds wired, deed recorded, keys handed over heavy honest metal on a leather fob. From the title office, I drove straight to the timber, parked at the cul-de-sac, and walked in with a cordless grinder, new chain, a bright red no trespassing sign, and a printed copy of the deed. The padlock came off with a scream and a shrug. Mine clicked on with a soft final certainty. I photographed everything GPS, time, serials, then carried each HOA bench and feeder to a flatbed, labeled, and delivered them to the clubhouse with a receipt. Recovered items from parcel has on 8 to 042, claim within 30 days. The deputies came by, pre-scheduled, nodded at the paperwork, and left with a, "Y'all keep it peaceful." I posted a calm 3-minute video, maps, law, owner consent, and a question, if rules matter, shouldn't they matter to the rule makers? Comment, yes, if that lands. Predictable as sunrise, Evelyn rolled up with 2 board members and Officer Davis in tow. Unauthorized entry, she declared. Davis held up the deed. It's his. She pivoted to menace. We'll see you in court. Great, I said. Discovery will be fun. By dusk, my inbox lit with neighborhood DMs, quiet congratulations, old finds resurfacing, stories of benches placed without asking. The next morning, a certified letter arrived, intent to sue, encroachment, reputational damage. Amanda replied with a 30-page answer and a tiny smile. Please preserve all communications regarding trail promotion, fundraising, and representations to buyers. Meanwhile, I met Frank on FaceTime under the map tacked to my wall. You sure? He asked, eyes glassy. I'm sure, I said. Your name stays on a plaque for the right reason, he laughed. Make it small. No arches. The HOA tried to flank me through City Hall. Daniel Thompson, councilman with a taste for ribbon cuttings, popped into the permit queue. We filed a sunshine request. Emails spilled like nails from a split bag. Evelyn pitching park activation. Trevor attaching renders branded with his firm. Casual talk of fast-tracking, despite no ownership. Amanda drafted an ethics complaint citing conflict and benefit. I didn't blast it. I sent it to the city clerk and 2 reporters who still ask hard questions. Then I walked the property with a local land conservancy director. We'll sign a memorandum, she said, eyes on the stream. Permit-only hikes, habitat rules, and no HOA branding. You keep hunting under owner authorization. We steward the rest. A path for everyone, with consent as the first step. Imagine that. Lawsuit day came in a courtroom that smelled like old wood and patience. The HOA argued long-standing community use and public expectations. Amanda answered with title, tax receipts, and the part of law everyone forgets. Expectation isn't ownership. The judge asked one question that ended it. Did the HOA pay property taxes on this parcel? No, Your Honor. Gavel Energy shifted. He ruled clean, deed valid, no HOA authority, cease false claims, return fixtures already done, and, cherry on top, reasonable attorney fees awarded to defendant. Outside. A reporter asked for a quote. I kept it short. This isn't city versus country. It's consent, law, and telling the truth about who owns what. If you needed that line today, type consent, so I know I'm not yelling into the wind. The neighborhood felt different the very next week. Not perfect, just honest. Board meetings lost their courtroom vibe. Questions landed without fear. Sarah told me 3 families appealed nonsense violations and won. Paula planted a new sapling where her old tree had been non-conforming, and neighbors showed up with shovels and iced tea. The HOA quietly pulled the Green Valley Trails brochure from the website and replaced it with an apology so bland it squeaked. I recorded an easement from my LLC to my home lot belt and suspenders so no future committee could choke access again, and signed the Conservancy MOU. Posted hours, no feeding wildlife, hunting by owner license only, school field trips with guide training. We turned a turf war into a real place with rules that make sense. Evelyn didn't vanish. People like her never do. But she learned the line is real and paper is sharp. Marcus stopped booming and started reading. Richard, the treasurer who'd flinched at the first meeting, sent a quiet email. Glad it's settled. We'll be more careful. Even Jessica found me on the sidewalk one morning. My kids still heard gunshots, she said, softer. Mine heard birds, I replied, then handed her the posted schedule and safety map. When you want to walk with a guide, text Sarah. She stared at the paper, then nodded once. That's a start. If you're still here, here's your blueprint. Pull maps. Get permission in writing. Document everything. Answer in public with facts. Offer a lawful path forward. And when the bully says community, ask who signed the deed. Drop maps matter if you're taking that to your own fight. 48 hours after Evelyn's final warning, my response landed exactly as promised deed recorded. Fixtures returned, lawsuit beaten, conservancy formed, fines withdrawn. I didn't spike the ball. I opened the gate, let the creek talk, and sent Frank a photo of a sunrise he could feel through a screen. He texted back one word: respect. That's the whole story in 5 letters. Not noise, not gossip, not fake preserves. Respect for lines, for law, for neighbors who just want to live without performance art at the mailbox. If this gave you a spine, share it with the one person on your block who's tired of paying fear on time. And tell me where you're watching from. We're building a map of people who read their deeds, know their rights, and don't confuse confidence with jurisdiction. Your key, your lock, your land. Put the megaphone down, Evelyn. Detective Alex Morgan's voice cut through the morning drizzle as deputies stepped onto the HOA office steps with a crisp stack of papers. We have a warrant for financial records tied to the Nature Park Fund. The crowd of sign waivers froze. Marcus went pale. Trevor tried to slip out the side door with a laptop bag and got stopped by a deputy who asked politely, on camera, to see what was inside. I didn't cheer. I stood on the sidewalk phone recording and said one sentence for anyone watching live. This is what happens when rules meet receipts. Evelyn turned, eyes sharp. This is harassment. Detective Morgan's reply was steady. What's harassment is soliciting donations for land you don't own, then paying your husband's company 3 times market rate. If you're watching right now, drop receipts in chat because paper doesn't lie, even when people do. By noon, the HOA office looked less like a clubhouse and more like an audit room. Banker boxes lined the conference table. A deputy photographed ledger pages while Morgan read check memos out loud. Green Vision Concept Sketch Set, $9,200. Green Vision Environmental Intake, $7,800. Richard, the treasurer, hovered in the doorway with a face that said he'd been sick for months. Nancy stood outside in the rain with a hood up, not smiling, not talking, just watching her copies become evidence. Evelyn tried the old move talk fast, bury questions in confidence, but the warrant controlled the room now. No one was yelling. That was the scariest part for her. When power stops answering to volume, it answers to law. And law doesn't blink. That afternoon, Amanda filed 2 motions that landed like hammers. A petition for an injunction barring the HOA from representing, fundraising for, or entering my land, and a motion to compel the HOA to produce a full accounting to homeowners within 10 days. We attached Nancy's files, the city emails about fast-tracking, and screenshots of the Evelyn Richardson Nature Park brochure. I posted a calm 3-minute update. No one is shutting out families. We're building a legal access plan with a conservancy. We're shutting out fraud. Comments flooded with neighbors asking how to see the books. If you've ever watched Fear Flip Sides, you know the exact second the moment people stop whispering and start asking for receipts by name. Evelyn retaliated fast and ugly. The HOA attorney blasted a defamation demand for $100,000 and an order to take down everything I'd posted. Amanda responded with 1 sentence and a stack of exhibits. Truth is an absolute defense. Then she added a counter-demand. Immediate retraction of the false claim that I had invaded HOA property plus attorney's fees. Meanwhile, a half-dozen protesters showed up at my curb with Save Our Trails signs. I walked out with a printed map and said, "You're welcome on the trails legally when the Conservancy posts rules." Until then, stop letting someone lie to you about lines on a map. One mom took the paper and stared at the parcel number like it had been hiding in plain sight for a decade. The emergency HOA meeting that night was a pressure cooker with microphones. Evelyn stood on stage beside Trevor and Marcus. Behind them, the big glossy render of her stone arch. She opened with her best line. "One selfish homeowner is holding our community hostage." I waited until homeowner questions opened, then walked to the mic with a folder and a timer. 3 facts. 1. The land was always private. 2. The HOA never had a deed, lease, license, or tax bill. 3. Donations flowed to Green Vision, owned by the president's husband and the VP's sister. A murmur rolled the room. Evelyn lunged for the mic. I stepped back and turned mine off. "I'm done." Then Richard, the treasurer, did the bravest thing I've seen in a room like that. He cleared his throat and said, "We don't have complete records for the fund." Silence finally told the truth. The judge signed our injunction the next morning with a line Evelyn will hear in her sleep. The association is enjoined from representing, fundraising for, or accessing the Holloway parcel absent express written permission, deputies posted the order at the clubhouse. Amanda sent it to the management company, the city clerk, and the HOA insurer because claims adjusters love knowing what they're on the hook for. I hired a crew to reinstall every vandalized sign and added 2 game cameras at the gate. That night, those cameras caught Marcus in a hoodie unscrewing a post with a cordless driver. He looked right at the lens without realizing it, the way people do when they still think a rule bends if they squint. We emailed the footage to Detective Morgan and politely copied the board. Nancy finally agreed to meet again, this time with a small recorder on the table and Amanda present. She walked us through the shell game. Assessments routed to the park fund, invoices approved solo by Evelyn due to time sensitivity, treasurer access throttled to prevent leaks, and Green Vision charging preliminary fees. Every time a permit document moved 1 inch. Patricia Marcus's sister was added last spring, Nancy whispered. After homeowners started asking why Trevor kept getting the work, she slid over a spreadsheet, dates, amounts, memos. It was a map of money. We didn't smile. We signed a witness statement and let the weight of what came next settle into the room like a summer storm. Evelyn's last clean play was politics. She called Daniel Thompson from the council and begged for a public-private partnership to preserve the neighborhood's cherished trails. Daniel hedged. The city attorney didn't. His email landed in the record like a brick. The city cannot partner on development of private land without owner consent, nor allocate grant funds previously requested under misrepresented ownership. That single paragraph ripped the air out of Evelyn's PR balloon. The Valley Chronicle ran Emily Chen's follow-up, neutral tone, sharp questions, a photo of the posted injunction, and a pull quote from Detective Morgan. "We're reviewing financial records." No further comment. You don't need a gavel sound when one paragraph does the same work. Then came the night the ground shifted for good. The board called another community safety forum. The room filled older neighbors in church clothes, young families with strollers, contractors with folded arms. Before Evelyn could start, Richard walked to the mic and resigned. "I can't certify numbers. I can't see," he said, voice shaking. "I'm sorry." Jessica Parker stood to blast me and instead asked, "Where did my $500 donation go?" Paula asked for a forensic audit. A retired banker volunteered to chair it. Marcus tried to reframe everything as confusion and miscommunication. The crowd no longer bought it. A petition to call a recall election started on a clipboard in the back row and never came back to the front. Detective Morgan moved. Subpoenas went out to banks. The HOA insurer sent a reservation of rights letter that read like a breakup text. "We will not cover intentional fraud." The management company quietly suspended unilateral disbursement authority for the president. Green Vision's website went offline. A cached page showed one client and too many buzzwords. Trevor stopped jogging past my house. The next morning, a county vehicle rolled up to the clubhouse. 2 investigators stepped out and left 20 minutes later with 3 more boxes and a desktop tower wrapped in a chain of custody tag. No sirens, no cuffs. Just a drip, drip, drip that sounded a lot like consequences. We held the first conservancy walk that Saturday. 15 people, 2 docents, printed permits, kids with clipboards, spotting warblers. At the trailhead, a laminated sign said what needed saying: private land, public access by permission. Respect the rules, respect each other. I carried a trash bag, not a victory lap. A man I'd never met knocked his boot on a root and said, "I gave to the park fund because I believed her. I feel stupid." I shook my head. "You believed in a trail. That's not stupid. The lie was." He nodded, then pointed toward a bend in the stream. "My daughter loves this spot. Thanks for doing it right. If you've ever had an enemy force you to build something better, you know the strange relief of that sentence." Recall day hit like a summer storm, hot, fast, unavoidable. Ballots were counted in the open by volunteers from 3 streets who'd never agreed on anything before. Evelyn lost her seat by a margin so wide it didn't need spin. Marcus lost too. The new board's first act was to hire a third-party firm for a forensic audit and publish every line item online. Their second act was to pass a policy that any project over $5,000 required competitive bids, and a homeowner vote with the parcel map stapled to the agenda. Their third act, quiet but huge, was instructing council to seek recovery of any improper disbursements from Green Vision and any individuals who approved them. Accountability is a ladder. Everyone climbs or everyone watches. In the weeks that followed, the case kept moving where it belonged, on paper, in court, at the bank. I set the conservancy calendar, finalized the school field trip guidelines with Sarah, posted the hunting blackout dates for nesting season, and put a small, tasteful plaque at the first overlook. Williams Overlook Respect the Land. Frank texted a photo of the sunrise from his Florida porch with "looks familiar" and a smile emoji that said more than most speeches. Emily Chen called to ask what I'd say to other neighborhoods. "Maps first, money second, microphones last," I told her. "And if anyone waves community like a badge, ask who signed the deed. Here's your on-screen checklist if you're fighting your own HOA mess right now. 1. Pull the parcel map and keep it on your phone. Number 2. Get owner permissions in writing. Email is fine. Licenses are better. 3. Archive everything. Letters, emails, screenshots, doorbell clips. Find one ally inside who knows where the paper lives. When you talk publicly, use short sentences and facts, not insults. Offer a lawful path forward that doesn't depend on you forever. If money smells wrong, say forensic audit, not witch hunt. 8. When it's time to vote, do it in the open with numbers everyone can see. If this helped, type MAPS is greater than MYTHS so the next person scrolling at 2 a.m. finds a plan instead of panic. And Evelyn? She didn't vanish. People like that usually land on another committee with a new slogan. But here, her name came off the agenda and onto a ledger under pending review. The neighborhood didn't become perfect. It became honest. That's enough. Trails stayed open the right way. Kids learned the difference between ours and theirs without getting cynical. Neighbors waved with their whole hands again. The creek kept talking. And when the first cold front of fall slid down the ridge, I stood at the gate I own. On land I respect, in a community that finally respects itself, and I turned a key that no longer had anyone else's fingerprints on it. If you've got a fight like this brewing, remember, your voice matters, your map matters, and the truth, once it's on paper, doesn't need permission to stand. Baseless? Evelyn scoffed into the mic, chin high, voice brittle. We will not be intimidated. Residents traded looks. The room could smell spin now. Then, she locked eyes on me. You made a serious mistake, Mason. When this is over, you'll regret ever moving here. The words hung there, threats, in front of witnesses, on a dozen phones. I didn't flinch. Smile for the camera, I thought. That line wasn't just ugly. It was useful. On my walk home, I stopped playing defense. I called Emily Chen for an exclusive, set 2 mugs on my table, and stacked the receipts. Bank pulls to Green Vision, company filings with Trevor and Patricia's names, fundraiser flyers that lied about ownership, Frank's and Robert's statements, and the audio of Evelyn's threat. Is Detective Morgan already moving? Emily asked. He is, I said. And tonight, he'll have more. By noon the next day, every mailbox held a plain envelope from me and Amanda. A simple letter with maps, numbers, and photos. What you gave, where it went, who approved it, and why it was illegal. No adjectives, just line items. We ended with an offer. Replace the current leadership, adopt transparent controls, and I'll dedicate and ensure a legal community trail segment on my land. Meantime, Emily's online preview went live. Balanced tone, sharp questions, my documents embedded, and one sentence that stung. The HOA pursued a park on land it never owned. News that Detective Morgan had visited Richard and Nancy spread like a grass fire. Donor calls started. Cynthia, a former ally, publicly demanded a full audit. When confidence breaks, it shatters fast. If you've ever felt a room turn, you know that click, you can almost hear it. The special meeting exploded before the gavel fell. Is it true you paid your husband? Why hide the deed? Where are the invoices? Evelyn tried the old playbook. Deny, reframe, sneer. These are malicious fabrications. Green Vision provided professional services. Then Richard, sweating through his collar, found his spine. You told me it was above board. I never saw backup. Gasps. Right then, the back doors opened. District Attorney William Hayes and Detective Morgan stepped in and simply listened. Evelyn slammed the podium. I bent a few rules for the good of the community. Would you prefer a gun-toting outsider decide our nature? The room went dead. Nancy stood hands, shaking, words steady. You lied about ownership. You pushed payments without review. You threatened my job. This was about building a monument to yourself. You could feel years of fear drain out of the chairs. Hayes stepped forward. Given an ongoing financial investigation, consider interim leadership. Marcus lifted a mic and lowered it again. Trevor stared at the floor. Evelyn refused to step down, spat defamation, and stormed out. That walkout broke the spell. People who'd never spoken at a meeting lined up to speak. Some apologized to me for believing the brochure. Others demanded receipts and a forensic audit. Afterward, Hayes and Morgan asked me to give a formal statement in the morning. Wire fraud, misappropriation, abuse of position were now on the table. On my way home, a text pinged. Storage Unit 23 being emptied tonight. I sent it straight to Morgan. Deputies intercepted Trevor and Patricia with boxes of files. No screaming, no drama. Just evidence sliding back where it belonged. 2 days later came Evelyn's last stunt, a trail preservation walk translation, mass trespass, flyers, emails, the whole theater. I had already posted conservation signs, recorded a wildlife reserve designation, fenced sensitive zones, and built an information kiosk with rules, permits, and a QR code. Saturday, she arrived in brand new hiking gear, 30 people behind her, cameras rolling. We're reclaiming our trails, she announced, hand on the gate. 3 patrol cars glided up. Morgan stepped out. This is private land with an active investigation. Anyone crossing will be arrested. He looked straight at Evelyn. Organizing this could be entered as evidence. The crowd deflated. Parents lifted kids. Neighbors peeled away. Even Marcus took a long step back. Evelyn hissed, "This isn't over." But it was. The only people who didn't know were the ones who needed a headline to tell them. Then the week turned into a ledger. Charges landed. Fraud, embezzlement, misuse of HOA funds. 68 grand traced to vacations and renovations. The board called an emergency vote. Members ousted leadership and appointed Sarah as interim president. First act, commission a forensic audit and publish monthly reports. Second, competitive bidding for any project past $5,000 and a homeowner vote with parcel maps attached. Third, instruct council to recover improper disbursements from Green Vision and any approving officers. Richard resigned and owned his failure. The management company apologized for enabling unilateral approvals. The insurer sent a frosty letter about intentional acts not covered. Translation: you broke it, you buy it. If you're still with me, type transparency so someone scrolling at midnight sees a path, not a panic. I kept my promise. With permits, insurance, and the conservancy plan, we opened a real public trail on a defined corridor. Posted hours, no feeding wildlife, hunting blackout during nesting, school group days with trained docents. At the entrance, a small plaque read, Frank Williams Memorial Trail, Respect Land. Respect Law. The first Saturday, kids counted warblers with clipboards while a retired neighbor told stories about the old mill road. No stone arch, no vanity sign, just a path that belongs because it obeys. Emily's follow-up ran with a simple headline, Map versus Myth, and a photo of the injunction posted next to a smiling field trip. The comment that stuck with me wasn't praise, it was humility. I gave money because I wanted a place to walk with my dad. I wish I'd asked who owned it. Thank you for doing it the right way. Evelyn and crew took plea deals: probation, suspended sentences, repayment north of 6 figures, 10-year bans from managing nonprofits or HOAs. A for sale sign appeared in front of their house. A moving truck followed. The scholarship fund we created with returned donations. The Green Valley Ethics and Leadership Award sent its first 2 seniors to college with essays titled "Consent Isn't a Technicality" and "Why Rules Need Receipts." The final HOA meeting I attended felt normal. We voted unanimously on a clean access agreement: insurance, maintenance schedule, conservation protections, published calendars. Sarah tapped the gavel once and smiled without performing. "This is what community looks like," she said. "For the first time since I moved in, I believed it. If you need the blueprint we used, here it is in one breath. Pull the parcel map. Get permission in writing. Archive every letter and invoice. Find one brave insider. Speak in facts, not insults. Offer a lawful alternative. Demand a forensic audit if money smells off, vote in the open, and put your wins into systems that don't depend on a hero. I still hunt ethically, legally, and now neighbors wave instead of whisper. The HOA didn't die. It grew up. The fear tax got canceled. The creek kept talking. And when dawn hits the gate, I turn a key that carries only my fingerprints and Frank's memory. If this story gave you a spine, share it with the one neighbor who thinks they're alone. They're not. Maps beat myths. Law beats volume. And a steady voice carries further than a megaphone when you've got receipts to back it up. Last coda. A month after the dust settled, I saw Nancy on the trail with her son. She paused at the plaque, traced Frank's name, and exhaled. "I thought I'd lose my job," she said. I almost stayed quiet. I nodded. "You changed everything." She shook her head. The truth did. That night, the scholarship committee picked its third recipient, a kid who helped count birds on Saturdays and wrote about the difference between owning a place and caring for it. That's the point we almost missed. The HOA lost an illusion and found honesty. I gained a community, not a fan club. And Evelyn? Last I heard, she's in an apartment with no HOA to run. Fitting. Doors close, trails open, and the rules finally mean what they say.